It is the front page Saturday Town Hall edition, and we've got some incredible guests. Our topic, so important today, all about the elections under COVID-19. Our sponsors, Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas of the 2nd District, the City of Los Angeles itself, Community Build, the Independent Professionals Association at indiework.org, and Council President Emeritus Herb Wesson. So glad you could be with us this morning. Common Cause is in the house. She is their national redistricting director. She led their work to challenge partisan and incumbent gerrymandering, and she's the architect of California's Citizens Redistricting Commission. Kathay Feng, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique.
Thanks for being with us. We're also being joined by the LA County Clerk. He's the registrar recorder responsible for registering voters, maintaining voter files, and much, much more. Dean Logan, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. Great to be back with you.
It is. We have so many calls on the line, people, with a lot of concerns about the election. So I'm going to spend most of our time there. But Kathay, you've been with us on Front Page over the years. This seems like probably, in most people's mind, the biggest emergency in terms of elections. With all the things that we're hearing on the news, I'm worried that people are going to be discouraged from voting at all. What should they know?
Well, I will say that I do a lot of things. This is not the time to procrastinate. If you care about voting, if you care about the choice, and I know all of your listeners do, this is the time to be ready, make a plan, and be sure that they vote, but they do it not by waiting till the last minute. We know that there's a lot of discussion about changes in the postal service, changes at the leadership level, but also impacts on how people are going to receive their ballots. We know that in California, for the first time, every single registered voter who's active will be receiving a ballot in the mail. That's fantastic. And you're going to be receiving that 1 month ahead of the election. So when you receive that vote by mail ballot, you have a lot of ways of returning it. You can return it in person. You can return it at a drop box. You can drop it off at a mobile voting center if there happens to be one close by you. But the key thing is to make a plan to return that ballot, and you don't have to wait until Election Day to do it. Now, if you vote on Election Day, it's okay because we have a lot of protections in place in California. But expect that you and a lot of other people are going to have that same idea, and we may experience lines again.
And speaking of lines, Registrar Logan, a lot of people were just very upset last election, long lines, people were confused. I know we made a lot of big changes all at once. How is it going to be different this time?
Sure, yeah, and understandable that people were upset by that in March. And we had record turnout in that election, and as you indicate, Dominique, a lot of new changes that went into place. And we recognize that, we learned from that, and we're taking steps to ensure that that voters have access and the opportunity to vote in this election. Many of those things are the things that Kathay just mentioned. The fact that we will be mailing ballots to every registered voter in the county. Those will go in the mail right around October 5th. So you do have that month before the election, and I couldn't agree more with Kathay that making a plan now to kind of be on the alert for that ballot, plan to vote it and vote it early and get it back to us. And there, as she indicates, there's multiple ways to do that. But on top of that, I think we're fortunate in California that we have election laws here that really are tilted to favor enfranchising our voters. So vote by mail is just one method of voting in this election. We will also have early voting for 10 days before the election throughout the county, and then in particularly the final 5 days before the election. So that's Friday, October 30th through Election Day, November 2nd. We will have as many as 800 voting locations spread out throughout this county where any voter in the county can go to any of those locations. And in fact, anybody who missed the opportunity to register to vote could go to any of those locations, register and cast their ballot. And we know these are difficult times because of COVID, and people are dealing with the restrictions and the impact of that. So we're planning ahead for that to be sure that we can provide those as safe locations with ability to have social distancing, to have the personal protective equipment. And so we don't want people to be discouraged from voting in this election. It's just too important for people to come out and vote. And so look for in the next few weeks, you're going to be hearing more and more announcements about some iconic places that are going to be opening up to allow people to cast their votes.
Like Dodger Stadium
came on board this week,
cool.
And LAFC, the LA Football Club, as well. And there's going to be more of that coming out. Those are the iconic ones, and those will give us those kind of large spaces to spread people out.
Right.
But we will also be locating places close to home, too. So we want to be sure that everybody gets the opportunity to vote in this election.
All right, let's go to Maddie calling us from Hawthorne. Good morning, Maddie. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning. My comment is, being that this is such an important election, I don't understand why the National Guard isn't used. The National Guard, in my opinion, should be called out in every state. Because
the National Guard to do what now? What are they doing?
To protect the vote.
How do they do that? I mean, go to the post office and follow. I'm not being smart. I'm trying to understand your vision. Huh?
Okay, there's a barcode on each envelope, as I understand.
Right.
Okay. Where I live, I'm getting 3 days mail all in one. So something is definitely happening in the post office.
Yeah, I've been hearing that on the during the week too. People saying that their mail is coming later and later at night. That they're skipping days. Maddie just said 3 days at once. What could that happen? Could the National Guard or some other entity be called in to protect the vote or help the post office or something?
Yeah, I think there's a few things in there, and thanks, Maddie, for the question and for calling out and kind of surfacing this concern with the postal delivery. It's something that we're tracking very closely. We've all heard a lot in the news in the last week about what frankly appear to be shenanigans in the U.S. Postal Service. We're working locally here with our Postal Service representatives who we fortunately in California and in Los Angeles County, we've been voting by mail for a long time, so we have some experience with that, but we're taking that very seriously. And I think the positive side is that we mail those ballots 30 days before the election, so there is that time, even if it takes longer to get out there. And California law has been changed, so if you are going to return your ballot, if you're going to vote it and return it through the mail, as long as it's postmarked by Election Day, we can receive it as late as 17 days after the election, and it'll still be counted. But this kind of goes to the point Kathy made earlier about is you don't want to wait till that last minute because things are taking longer, and sadly, it does look like there are attempts to disrupt the process, but we can't let that keep us from voting. Real quick on the National Guard, that's something that I know other states have deployed the National Guard in some capacity in the primary cycles. I don't know that that's under consideration in California. Right now, there is some sensitivity to any sort of presence of law enforcement at voting locations. But I can tell you that here in LA County and in cooperation with the Secretary of State, we are taking advantage of the disaster executive orders that have been put in place by the governor and by our Board of Supervisors. So we, for instance, will be staffing our vote centers with disaster service workers that include county employees and programs like that. So we are looking for opportunities to deploy people in recognition of these unusual circumstances.
Are you looking for poll workers? Just real quick.
Absolutely. We would welcome
how do they sign up?
You can sign up on our website, which is lavote.net, and there's a portal there where you can sign up to be an election worker, and we welcome members of the community to be part of that program. Okay, let's go to Eddie calling us from LA. Good morning, Eddie.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Dominique. I appreciate your call-in show so very much. Some people say that Hillary Clinton lost because of voter purging. Can you explain to us what is voter purging and any kind of protection we have against that?
So the question is, how do we make sure that we're not being purged off the registrar's lists, like what's happening in other states? I don't know, Kathy, if you can say anything about that, or Dean Logan. Let's start with Kathy.
Starting point is that you can actually look up whether you're registered. And if you are somebody who's voted in, the last few elections, particularly in federal elections, you're okay. You can actually look up right now, and Dean just gave us that website, lavote.net. That's a place that you can look up whether you're registered or not. I'm just going to say that in California, we are so protective of our voters that we do not do that kind of regular purging. LA County is always going through a process of cleaning lists, when people pass away or they move out of the city or county, out of the county or state. They're checking and double checking, right? So you'll get postcards, you'll get kind of verifications before anybody gets removed from a list. But if you're really worried, just check that website, lavote.net, and you'll see whether you're registered or not, whether you're in the system, and if there's anything that needs updating, you can use that website to update that information.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's go to Fran calling us from Ladera Heights. Good morning, Fran.
Good morning, Dominique, and to your guest. I have two comments. One, I worked the polls last year, and we were there 11 days, and people did not know that we were there. It just so happened that we were at the library, and so people would pass by, and they would say, "Oh, we can vote." On the 3rd, we were there until 11:30 because the lines were so long. So people's comments were they did not know. The second thing is that if you're bringing somebody's ballot to the polls to drop off, you have to have their signature on there giving you permission. Those were our two biggest problems.
Okay, that's great information, Fran. So people can actually drop off other people's ballots. I didn't think about that. If they're elderly, if they, are worried about exposure, but there's a special process for that, Dean Logan?
Yeah, actually, a couple of points on that. And first, just let me make sure that I take the chance to thank Fran and all of the people who worked in the March election. It was a beast of an election, and we could not do that without people like you, Fran. So thank you for that. And again, we're working to address a lot of those issues. A couple things to clarify there is that anyone can return that ballot for you. The signature on it has to be the signature of the voter. There was an old law in California that said you had to have somebody else sign and give permission to deliver your ballot. That's no longer the case. So you can, if you are concerned about and you're in a risk category for COVID and you want somebody else to take that ballot and drop it off at the voting location or a drop box, that is legitimate and can be done. And likewise, if you are walking your ballot into a voting location and you see that there's a line, you don't have to wait in that line if you've already voted your ballot. You can immediately go to the front and put that into the ballot box, and we will be heavily advertising that.
And, the early voting is 10 days prior to the election day, right? That's in person. But if we get our ballot a month out, we can send it in anytime we want to, right? As soon as we fill it out, we can just send it back, right?
That's right. You can vote as soon as you receive that ballot, and you can either return it by mail, or we're going to have more than 300 drop boxes, physical boxes that are out there in the community where you can drop that off if you're not.
And those have nothing to do with the post office. Those are voting
correct.
Boxes, so we wouldn't have to worry about Donald Trump grabbing our votes out of there. And then the last quick point on this, just procedural thing. If I want to vote and drop my ballot at a early voting location, I've already gotten my mail-in vote. I just want to drop it at a location. I don't want to put it in a box. I can do that at any one that's open?
That's correct. Yep, any location in the county. And in fact, on our website, you can actually use the lookup feature, and it'll tell you where the closest drop box and the closest vote center is to wherever you are at a given period of time.
And of course, you'll have a list of which vote centers are open early, because not all of them are offering early voting, right?
That's right. So the vote centers, your sample ballot that comes in the mail prior to the election will list the 3 vote centers that are closest to your residence. It will also give you a website where you can get the full list of voting locations. And same thing with your vote by mail ballot. Inside that vote by mail packet will be a list of where these drop boxes are.
Just a ton of people with a ton of questions, and we're going to, keep this conversation going. So you'll have your questions answered one way or another. But Kathay Feng, what do you want people to know? What do you want people to do? I just don't want to let you off the microphone this morning without you making the main point that you came here to make.
No, absolutely. Here's the thing. It's absolutely important that people vote. Do not get discouraged. There are so many ways in California that we are trying to keep that ballot access open. Unlike other states, we fought hard for that right. And what I'll say is that people should know that there's a lot of people out there helping out and volunteering to make sure that your ballot is protected. So if you've got any questions and if you're concerned about whether or not something you've seen a problem or you're worried about something, sometimes, because of difficulties, poll workers might be opening up the location late or somebody might be doing something that you're worried about, give a call to 1-866-OUR-VOTE. That's 1-866-OUR-VOTE. In other states, we've used that hotline with thousands of volunteers, right, to make sure that every single person's ballot counts. And we've gone to litigation. We've gone to protect people. Sometimes it's also just an emergency that happens within an emergency, right? So shooting might happen and police close down a neighborhood. What do we do? And we'll use that hotline to make sure that people who are calling in will tell them, here's what you need to do. You didn't get out, to vote. You can't leave your home. This is what you can do. And we've been working very closely with Dean Logan's office to make sure that we're giving out all of the most accurate information on the spot. Sometimes that hotline is the easiest way to get in because, remember, millions of people live in Los Angeles County. They might be calling Los Angeles County Registrar's office all at once because they're all freaking out. And what will happen is that 1-866-OUR-VOTE number is a great way to get in without a long, long wait. And we'll walk you through. We'll stay on the line until you get that ballot in and somebody is taking care of you. One last thing. Dean mentioned those drop boxes, and I just wanted to describe them because sometimes, when you see them, what a mailbox looks like. It's a blue thing, right? And what your library drop box looks like when you drop off books. This is kind of like a hybrid in between, and it's this lovely poppy yellow color with a light blue. I don't want to say it's the colors of a certain university that's in Los Angeles, but you might think of that, right? But that it's eye-catching, and it's going to be this kind of big box, and it's the box that LA County will be checking regularly to pick up those ballots. So if you're worried and you don't want to have kind of in-person contact, that's a really easy way to drop off your box. You don't have to put a stamp on it. You don't have to worry about anything. Just put that in the box and it goes straight to the LA Registrar's office.
Okay, and just really quickly, Kathay Feng, how do we, if we want to help Common Cause, I mean, you guys do such great work, can we get involved?
So if you want to volunteer, it's so easy. You can just, you can call that 1-866-OUR-VOTE number, or you can go to protectthevote.net, protectthevote.net. That's the easiest way to sign up to become a volunteer. You can be an attorney, you can be not an attorney, you can just be somebody who really, really cares about our elections. And we have lots of different jobs that people can help out with. You can answer phones and we'll train you, right, how to give the right answer. You can proactively contact voters and just make sure if there's a problem, how can we help? Sometimes there are people who are offering rides to the polling place or the vote center. There are also people who will be driving from one vote center to another just to make sure everything's okay. And if there's a problem, they're calling in. So we need those volunteers too.
Kathay Feng.
First volunteer is to the poll workers, though. So absolutely, if you can help out.
Help the registrar first, yes.
Be a poll worker, yes.
Got it. Okay, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much, Registrar Recorder Dean Logan and Common Cause's Kathay Feng. We appreciate you being with us.
Thanks so much, Dominique.
Thanks so much.
It is Front Page Saturday Town Hall Edition, Radio Free 102.3 KJLH.